Well, hello and a very warm welcome to a brand new edition of World Panorama with me, Frank Pereira. Over the next half an hour or so, we're going to bring you up to date with all the happenings from around the globe that has taken place over the past week. Let's begin, as of now, with the latest headlines. Canadian lawmakers vow to hold on to the nation's openness despite the parliament terror attack in Ottawa. Pakistani parliament passes resolution seeking UN intervention on Kashmir solution. India hits back on its charge of ceasefire violations. New York gets its first case of Ebola. Doctor diagnosed with the virus, but officials say there's no cause to panic. And European Union leaders reach landmark deal to cut greenhouse emissions by 40% by 2030 compared with 1990 levels. Canadian police on Friday released a video of the sequence of events just minutes before a lone gunman attacked the country's parliament on Wednesday. The attack has jerked the nation into high gear. Prime Minister Stephen Harper has vowed to strengthen the nation's anti-terrorism laws and has said Canada will not be intimidated by such violence.
No fiction feature, this is for real. Shocking visuals of what happened in the run-up to Wednesday morning's attack on the country's parliament. The video shows how the suspect, identified as 32-year-old Michael Zehaf Bebu, instills panic in the parliament precinct as he threatens people with his gun.
The lead vehicle is a minister's vehicle that is occupied by a driver. The suspect goes around to the front of the car. There's some exchange with the driver. The driver exits the vehicle and runs away. The suspect then drives towards Centre Block. It is at this point that those actions were noticed by RCMP officers, that vehicle that is moving with the door open and pursuing the suspect vehicle.
Hours after the attack, the Canadian government has come out with plans to bolster laws and police powers. But in a nation where the openness of political institutions is a deeply cherished article of faith, the attack has raised questions over the security measures. Prime Minister Stephen Harper said the country will be vigilant, but will not be deterred by the attack and run scared.
We will be vigilant, but we will not run scared. We will be prudent, but we will not panic. And as for the business of government, well, here we are in our seats, in our chamber, in the very heart of our democracy, and our work that our laws and police powers need to be strengthened in the area of surveillance, detention, and arrest. They need to be much strengthened. And I assure you, Mr. Speaker, that work, which is already underway, will be expedited.
Zehaf Bebu shot dead a soldier at Ottawa's War Memorial near Parliament before being gunned down by a sergeant-at-arms, Kevin Vickers. There has been no apparent link to extremists, but he had expressed intent to travel to Syria. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, joining me on the program this week is Mr. G. Parthasarathy, a former diplomat. Mr. Parthasarathy, welcome to the show and thank you for joining me. Let's talk about this particular incident. How do you look at this incident? Do you look at it as a stray incident that has taken place on the shores of Canada? Or do you look at it as, a problem, a larger problem that Canada really needs to deal with?
It's not just Canada, it's the entire Western world. Look, what has happened is that the invasion of Iraq by the Bush administration, in which Canada and all America's NATO allies joined in, and thereafter the invasion of Libya. This has let loose forces which America can't control. Both Iraq and Libya, and now Syria, are being governed by authoritarian dictatorships, but nevertheless secular dictatorships.
Yes.
There was a political vacuum. They were Sunni, in the case of Iraq, and it was a Sunni minority ruling as Shia majority.
Yes.
And the Shias, long suppressed, have responded in kind. Now, this has provoked two things. One, a very strong Shia-Sunni conflict across the Islamic world, which is bad enough, and that is compounded by rivalries between Iran and Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And then you have the emergence of this radical Sunni group, to deal with two Shia-dominated setups.
Yes.
Iraq is Shia majority ruled by Shias. Syria is a Shia minority ruling Sunnis. So this is basically, and who have put these groups together? It is the United States, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the Western Alliance. They have put this alliance together to fight President Assad, who is a secular dictator. Net result is you have allowed radicalism to gain legitimacy.
Indeed. Indeed.
And it spread across the Islamic world. Worse still, for the first time, very large Muslim populations in these very same countries which invaded Iraq and Libya are now getting together in this grouping. And this grouping is totally intolerant.
Indeed.
It is unlike Al-Qaeda, which was anti-Saudi monarchy, but not anti-Shia, or generally not running against what was later called the Jews and the Crusaders. This is a group which is intolerant of even any variety of Islam, unless it is an extremist
So the
variety.
bottom line is this should not be, dismissed as a stray incident or a one-off incident, but it is something that the entire world needs to stand up.
It is a malady because the bulk of these fighters, 2,000 or 3,000 of them, or now it's nearing 10,000,
Yes.
have gone from Western democracies.
Indeed.
Disaffected Muslim minorities in Western countries.
Taking off from what you're saying, there was a report in the BBC and some of the other Western media just a couple of weeks ago about how hundreds of French women are joining the Islamic State and going to Syria and some of these places and, joining these radicals. Now, that is another problem as far as the Western world is concerned, isn't it? Not just terrorism on its shores, but also its citizens joining the ranks of Islamic State.
This is precisely it. And this Canadian attack has been taken part not by someone with long-standing Islamic links, a new convert.
Yes.
And seeing the television, and I must say with ISIL, they operate the net with great effect and social networks with great effect. So young minds living in alien circumstances in Western countries are swayed. So I'll put it this way. I think this is payback time for the West for their invasions of Iraq and Libya. What they have done is let loose forces they can't control. Unfortunately, it is also affecting the Muslim world in terms of this Shia-Sunni rivalry because Al-Qaeda was not anti-Shia.
Yes, yes.
Whereas these people are.
How does the Western world really control this? Because see, a state like Canada is looked at as a very peaceful state. It's someone who preaches about harmony. It's a very open state. Now suddenly, Canada needs to be a closed state because it needs to control, what's happening there.
This is it. Let's be real with our Canadian friends are the most open, democratic, tolerant society I have known in all my travels.
Yes.
They are now stuck with this dilemma. You have a prime minister calling for rules similar to what the Americans do, meaning they have a right to tap the telephone of anyone, to monitor anyone, and to place anyone under detention. Which even, in India you had POTA and you had this resistance. Now imagine these countries which have been talking of democracies and saying they overthrew Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi to promote democracy, themselves facing the dilemma of terrorism and perhaps having to curb democratic rights. That's the unfortunate part of it. But then when you intervene in far-off countries, without clear motive.
You have to pay is
when they decided that Syria, Assad is a bad guy. Okay, he's a bad guy. If you overthrow him, who comes? Will he? And what has happened is Assad has the solid backing of Iran and Russia.
Yes.
And Iraq, which is now Shia majority. So, on the one hand, you are fighting in Syria both these Sunni terrorists whom you helped and the Syrian government, which is secular. And in Iraq, you threw out a secular government. They have produced a government which was not very tolerant of the Sunni majority. Hopefully, the new government will be more secular, more inclusive.
Before I let you go, Mr. Parthasarathy, do you think, Canada's decision to join the US-led airstrikes in Iraq have any kind of bearing on what happened in Canada?
All these Western states which have joined are going to pay the price. If you notice, Turkey is steering clear.
Yes, Turkey.
After having all these years sheltered groups like the ISIL to finish off the Assad regime. So, everyone is now hedging their bets. Even the Saudis don't know what to do. They would have loved to see that what they felt was a tyrannical Shia government in Iraq cut to size. But the group which is doing it is ultimately going to pull down the monarchy because they have a different approach to life. So everybody there is a dilemma. And for us in India, as long as this keeps away from the Gulf, it's all right. Don't forget, very close by, in the Gulf countries, we have 6 million Indians.
Yes.
They remit back $40 billion to our economy. 70% of our oil comes from those countries. So we also cannot be totally aloof from what's happening.
All right, we'll have to leave our discussion at that. Thank you so much, Mr. G. Parthasarathy, for joining us on the program this week and sharing your expertise on that particular subject. Let's shift focus to news closer home now. Even as the Pakistani Rangers were breaking ceasefire on the international border on the day of Diwali, its elected representatives in Parliament trained their guns on India on Thursday. They unanimously passed a resolution against what they called unprovoked and indiscriminate border firing by India and even asked the government to seek UN intervention to resolve the Kashmir issue.
On Thursday, while Prime Minister Narendra Modi was meeting the Indian Jawans on the world's highest battlefield, his Pakistani counterparts' team were piloting a resolution blaming India for warmongering. Nawaz Sharif's advisor Sartaj Aziz moved a resolution in the Pakistani National Assembly blaming India for the ceasefire violations on the border. It also appealed to the international community to take notice of the situation. The resolution asked the Pakistani government to raise the Kashmir issue at the United Nations and with the international community at the earliest. The 371-member assembly unanimously adopted the resolution. India reacted to the Pakistani aggression, with Home Minister Rajnath Singh articulating a tough stand on national security.
मैं पाकिस्तान के हुक्मरानों से कहना चाहता हूं, कृपया सीज फायर वायलेशन को रोकें और संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ के इंटरवेंशन की बात पाकिस्तान की नेशनल असेंबली ने प्रस्ताव पारित करके यह कही है, संयुक्त राष्ट्र संघ को कहा है कि इसमें हस्तक्षेप किया जाना चाहिए। मैं समझता हूं कि परस्पर बातचीत के द्वारा यदि कोई समस्या है तो उसका समाधान हो सकता है।
Defense experts and national leaders also slammed the resolution by Pakistan, calling it meaningless.
I don't think we should take it very seriously, because they have been doing it, they have been raising this issue in United Nations or any international forum. We have seen it, be it Islamic Conference Organization. It has no impact.
As long as we don't talk to Pakistan, so long as this meaningless firing across the LOC takes place, killing Jawans and killing innocent civilians, so long as tension is allowed to grow, I am afraid this kind of thing is going to happen. It's a meaningless resolution.
It's unable to recognize what's happening within its own country, whether its economy which has collapsed, whether the kind of security situation where citizens die every day, where young girls are shot for wanting to study in school, where health workers are shot for doing their work. Yet Pakistan, the government of Pakistan, disregarding all this, is single-purpose-mindedly only working on trying to internationalize the Kashmir issue.
The anti-India resolution by Pakistan contradicts Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif's claims of starting a dialogue between both countries. The latest development marks a new low in the relations that have gone from bad to worse in the last few months due to border hostilities. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, it's time for a short break on the program right now, but on the other side, we'll tell you all about the latest Ebola case in New York. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha Television. Well, after Texas, the deadly Ebola virus made its way into America's largest city, New York. An emergency physician who returned to New York City from Liberia tested positive for the deadly virus. This is the 4th case of Ebola in the United States and the first in the crowded metropolis.
Just a day after US President Barack Obama expressed optimism over efforts to contain the spread of Ebola, a physician in New York City has tested positive for the virus. Dr. Craig Spencer, who works with Doctors Without Borders, had returned to New York City just last week after working with Ebola patients in West Africa. He developed symptoms of the disease on Thursday and was immediately put in isolation at the Bellevue Hospital.
Today, testing confirmed that a patient here in New York City had tested positive for Ebola. The patient is now here in Bellevue Hospital. We want to state at the outset there is no reason for New Yorkers to be alarmed.
Even as authorities confirmed that Spencer was infected with Ebola, he took the subway from Manhattan to Brooklyn on Wednesday night when he went to a bowling alley and then took a taxi back home. But the city health commissioner thinks it is extremely unlikely that members of the public would contract the disease from the city's subway system.
At the time the doctor was on the subway, he had not had fever. He had no problem with his body fluids in the sense that he had no diarrhea, no vomiting, no blood loss, all of these symptoms that occur when people become much sicker.
While officials in New York said they expected isolated cases of the disease to arrive eventually and had been preparing for it for months, the first case in America's largest city has renewed fears about the spread of the virus.
I'm afraid, that's it. It's just kind of crazy that it's happening on my block, but no, I hope the person's okay.
A first case of Ebola has also been reported from Mali, where a 2-year-old girl has tested positive for the virus. Mali is the 6th country in West Africa to be affected by the worst outbreak on record of the deadly virus, which has killed nearly 4,900 people so far. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, European Union leaders reached a landmark deal to cut greenhouse emissions by 40% by 2030 compared with the 1990 levels. The deal was reached after heated discussions at a summit in Brussels, as some members had argued that their varied interests should be protected. Experts say that the deal could make the EU a leader again in climate policy. The bloc also aims to boost the use of renewable energy to 27% in the total energy mix. There were deep divisions within the EU on emission cuts. Poland and UK had opposed binding targets on reduction of carbon emissions and raising reliance on renewable energy.
It was not easy, not at all, but we managed to reach a fair decision. It sets Europe on an ambitious yet cost-effective climate and energy path. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges of mankind. Ultimately, this is about survival. It is the example of a long-term policy.
Well, much else has been unfolding around the world. Here's a quick wrap of the other international news of the week.
President Dilma Rousseff has a clear lead over opposition candidate Aécio Neves and pulled her ahead for Sunday's presidential election runoff by 6 to 8 percentage points, two major Brazilian opinion polls showed on Thursday. In Brazil's tightest election in decades, the leftist incumbent's aggressive campaign against pro-business Senator Neves has succeeded in bolstering her support while increasing rejection of her rival, the surveys showed. Rousseff has gained momentum in the last 2 weeks, mainly among Brazil's lower middle class, which has gained access to modern consumer goods and education under the Workers' Party. Representatives from Iran and other countries have kicked off expert-level talks in the Austrian city of Vienna to discuss differences over a number of issues in the way of reaching a final deal over Iran's nuclear energy activities on Wednesday. Iran and 5 permanent UN Security Council members plus Germany are in talks to work out a final deal aimed at ending the long-standing dispute over the Islamic Republic's nuclear energy program as the 24th November deadline approaches. The chief UN investigator into human rights cases in North Korea has appealed to China to support calls to refer South Korea's actions to The Hague on suspicion of crimes against humanity. China is believed to be North Korea's principal protector on the UN Security Council, and it will likely use its veto power to knock down any attempt to refer North Korea to the International Criminal Court. The The World Health Organization has announced that a treatment using serum made from the blood of recovered Ebola patients could be available within weeks in Liberia, one of the countries worst hit by the virus. Senior WHO official Dr. Maury Paul Kenny said that facilities were being established to process blood-containing Ebola antibodies that could then be turned into a serum to help new victims. The Ebola outbreak has already killed more than 4,500 people. Most of the deaths have been in Guinea, Liberia and Sierra Leone. The death toll in the Nepal trekking disaster is now up to 43. Rescuers pulled out 3 bodies of Nepali citizens killed in last week's freak blizzards and avalanches. The blizzard struck the Annapurna circuit, a trail popular among Western hikers who walk around Mount Annapurna, the 10th highest mountain in the world, and caught the tourists during the peak hiking season. Officials said 518 people, including 304 foreign trekkers, were rescued in the operation by the army and civilian helicopters.
Let's shift focus now and bring you up to date with the latest sports news from around the world. Here's our sports wrap.
Oscar Pistorius, the double amputee who dazzled the world with his sprinting in the 2012 Olympic Games, was sentenced to 5 years in prison by a South African judge Tuesday for killing his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp, bringing to a close a trial that has captivated world audiences in a way unseen. The defense team said the law under which Mr. Pistorius was sentenced called for him to serve only 1/6 of the prison term. That's 10 months before he can be placed under house arrest. Steenkamp was killed almost instantly when Pistorius fired 4 shots through a bathroom door at his luxurious Pretoria home on Valentine's Day last year, having mistaken her for an intruder. Andy Murray defeated David Pereira to claim the Austrian Open for his 30th career title, boosting his chances of making the ATP World Tour Finals on Sunday. The hard-fought victory, 5-7, 6-2, 7-5 in 2 hours 41 minutes, sends the Scot just shy of 8th spot in the points race for the London season-ending finale, which begins in 3 weeks. Ferrer still trails Murray by just a handful of points in the race to the season-ending showpiece, with both men now heading back to Valencia for next week's competition. Italian legend Valentino Rossi won his first Australian MotoGP in 9 years after world champion Marc Marquez crashed out while holding a big lead at Phillip Island Sunday. Rossi, one of the sport's greats, with 9 world championships across all classes, swept to the front when Marquez came off his bike in the 18th lap to beat home teammate Jorge Lorenzo and Britain's Bradley Smith in an all-Yamaha podium. Didier Drogba has scored his first goal since returning to Chelsea as Jose Mourinho's side took control of the Champions League Group G game with a crushing 6-0 victory over Maribor at Stamford Bridge. John Terry put Jose Mourinho's team in control with a 31st-minute effort and a second-half own goal from Mitya Villar, followed by 2 goals from Eden Hazard, confirming a win that extended Chelsea's outstanding start to the season. Chelsea have now 7 points from 3 games to sit top of Group G and will be confident of reaching the knockout stage. Arjen Robben scored twice as Bayern Munich routed AS Roma 7-1 for a club record away win in the Champions League, showing the German club is once again among the favourites to take the title. Robben put the 2013 champions ahead 9 minutes with an expertly curled shot from a tough angle before Germany's World Cup hero Maria Götze doubled the lead in the 23rd and Robert Lewandowski made it 3-0 in the 25th. The outcome matched Roma's heaviest defeat in the competition, a 7-1 loss at Manchester United in the 2007 quarter-finals. Bayern's win extended the unbeaten streak for Guardiola's club to 12 matches in all competitions.
Moving on now, let's take a look at what's been creating a buzz in the world of show business. Here's our entertainment wrap.
American actor Matthew McConaughey was honored with the 28th American Cinema Tech Award at the annual ceremony at the Beverly Hills. It has been quite a year for McConaughey, who won an Oscar in March for Best Actor for his role in Dallas Buyers Club. Christopher Nolan presented McConaughey with the American Cinema Tech Award, an honor presented to filmmakers and actors making significant contributions to the world of cinema. McConaughey also received critical acclaim for his work on the HBO noir series True Detective, grabbing an Emmy nod. The first trailer for Rupert Wyatt's The Gambler shows a different side of Mark Wahlberg, one that is leaner and more desperate than the one on display in his last film, Transformers: Age of Extinction. In this remake of the 1974 original, which starred James Caan, Wahlberg plays Jim Bennett, a college professor with a gambling addiction that leads him to lay his own life on the line as collateral against a loan from a gangster, a move that brings him to the attention of a loan shark. The Gambler opens in select theatres on 19th of December. Oscar de la Renta, one of the most sought-after fashion designers of the last half-century, dressing American first ladies and Hollywood stars in his classic silhouettes, died on Monday at the age of 82. De la Renta, who was born in the Dominican Republic and made his name in the 1960s, dressing one of the major fashion icons of the day, First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy. He was known as one of the industry's classic designers, famous for floral, feminine, classy, elegant designs, flattering silhouettes with full skirts, cinched waists, often in soft hues.
First time.
Grammy winner Neil Diamond is back with his 32nd studio album, and despite being in the music business for over 5 decades, he shows no signs of slowing down. Diamond has sold more than 125 million albums worldwide, had 56 songs on Billboard's Hot 100, including 37 top 10 singles and 16 top 10 albums. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2011. Neil Diamond will be hitting the road in 2015 on a tour in support of Melody Road. Julian's Auctions has announced an upcoming sale that they claim is the largest collection of Madonna memorabilia from her personal and professional life ever. More than 200 items will be auctioned, including 30 outfits from Evita, a uniform from A League of Their Own, and the costume from her Material Girl music video. The auction will be available online and include other memorabilia exploring the life and career of Madonna.
Well, that's it on this edition of World Panorama. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again same time, same place next week. Bye-bye.